But anyway, it just reminded me that I digress. This is a very different feel, but there's not many songs about people skipping through graveyards and
Yeah,
reading
yeah, yeah.
stones. Yeah, so I just didn't expect to be thinking of the Smiths when I listened to Mr. Matthews, but there you go. Happy accident. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophile. My name's John. His name is Andy.
How bella.
Ali. Easy now. Don't build your pile. I I can remember standing by the wall and the guns shot over our heads, and we kissed as though nothing could fall. More on that later. But first, Andrew, brother Andrew, what have you got for us to listen to today?
Well, we are going to listen to an artist that you're familiar with from some of our other episodes, but it's going to be sort of a different situation here where it is a solo song by this artist. He did a solo album. So you're used to hearing Dave Matthews Band. You're going to be listening to a Dave Matthews track today. And that track is called Gravedigger.
Okay. I'm sure you get into it, but it is one of these things where they go off and do a solo album and all the guys in the band still play on the album. And it's cool. You get that with some bands, don't you?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
for
you
fuck's
definitely
sake,
do.
it's
Yeah.
not a solo album.
Yeah, or it's
But
like
anyway,
3 or 4/5 of the band like are on.
yes.
You're like, why did you do
So,
it?
guess which ones he doesn't get on with.
Exactly. No, this is a little bit different scenario, and like you said, afterwards I'll kind of get into why or how. But yeah, I'd love to hear your reaction to this song Gravedigger by Dave Matthews. So please run off, give it a listen, come back and let me know what you think, man.
Aye, aye, Capitan.
Wow, like here. It's kind of cool what happened. So let's start here.
Cyrus Jones, 1810 to 1913, made his great-grandchildren believe you could live to 103. 103 is forever when you're just a little kid. So Cyrus Jones lived forever. Grave digger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Grave digger.
Okay, that's a nice start. I really like the drum. It's the tone of it's almost tinny. It kind of reminds me of those knackered old military drums, that kind of sound you get. Just the one guy in his hip. Perhaps not. Yeah, interesting. And his vocal it's quite subdued at the start, and then sort of kicks in. There's acoustic guitar, and then there was a electric guitar in this channel, just kind of noodling, just doing little phrases. And then I'm sure I could hear a bass slowly creep in as well. It seems like it's just going to kick off a bit more. So let's see where it goes from here. Let's just take it back a touch.
So that I can feel the rain. Grave digger.
Guitars.
Muriel Stonewall, 1903 to 1954. She lost both of her babies in the Second Great War. Now you should never have to watch as your only children are lowered in the ground. I mean, never have to bury your own babies. Grave digger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Grave digger. Gravedigger.
I guess that was the bridge. Part that was quite interesting. So he's incorporating the old nursery rhyme, Ring a Ring of Roses, with a bit of Ashes to Ashes in as well. So the whole thing makes me think that someone's, obviously the title, contemplating mortality, and the way he says about him, shallow graves, you can feel the rain as well. But the two sort of verses we had is different people, and it's kind of like a mini obituary almost. It had their names, I think Cyrus Jones, something like that, and dates. It was 1870 to 19 something. He lived to 103. So yeah, you got name, dates, and a little synopsis. And then this one was Muriel. I can't remember the dates. It was like 900 to 1950 something, I think it was. And basically, she lost both of her sons in the Second World War, and shouldn't have to see your babies being lowered into the ground. I think it's something like that, he said, which is interesting. So yeah, just figuring out Gravedigger as well. Is it like I mean, it's not, but yeah, like Cemetery Gates. So you go Smith song when Morrissey goes and sort of spends a day at a graveyard reading the headstones and surmising about people, minus all the nonsense about plagiarism and poetry. Yeah, I think this is something to do with that, because these seem, I don't know, these might be real people and are connected. I don't, it doesn't feel it that way though. Perhaps they are real people anyway, but it's just rattling off. Yeah, with Gravedigger, it feels like he's walking around a graveyard and thinking about his own mortality, I think. We'll see. He was about to go into something there, so let's
We all fall down. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel rain? Oh, Gravedigger, lived on Mikey Carson, 67 to 75. He rode his bike like the devil until the day he died. When he grows up, he wants to be Mr. Vertigo on a flying trapeze. Or 1940 to 1990 to Gravedigger. When you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain?
strings.
Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? I can feel the rain, I can feel the rain. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Gravedigger.
There we go. That's interesting. The whole thing was building all the way through, his vocals as well, and the guitars. This one here was doing something in the right channel, particularly. I like the ending where it sort of dropped it back, and then the left channel guitars sounded really quite 70s, quite nice tone to it as well. Just coming back into it. Yeah, interesting song. I think I picked up Little Mikey. Didn't get the dates. Something about riding a bike. And Mr. Vertigo in a trapeze. He definitely said 1992. Yeah, I guess. I've got no clue really. So we'll have to go back and find out all the info from Andy.
All right, welcome back from the graveyard. What did you make of Gravedigger?
Okay. Song starts with this lovely hits from the drummer, and it's almost tinny in tone, and it makes me think of an old knackered military drum, which instantly makes me think of American Civil War because all the tunes that come out of that,
Yeah.
all that. And then we get some studio chat, and it sounds like a really faint electric guitar warming up in the background, which all gives the feel that we're listening in on a jam session, as it were, or sort of a little sneak peek into the workings. In comes the acoustic guitar, which, from memory of previous videos, is usually Mr. Matthews himself. I'm sure it probably is this time. Um, and then that aforementioned electric guitar shuffles its way to stage front and begins to noodle some gentle phrases. Um, Kind of in a different way, but the same methodology of a track you just listened to, Blocked by the Church, where at the end of phrases you get that, and you
Yeah.
get this sort of noodling, a different tone and a complete different song, but Um, so Dave, as I like to call him, starts singing, and we learn later that this is the first in a series of sort of mini obituaries, um, name, date, and a short synopsis of their life. Sorry.
Yeah.
So first up is Cyrus Jones, who apparently I forgot the dates, but it's like 18 something to 19 something, and apparently lived to 103, which is a good innings. Or in fact, as Dave and I think he said, great grandkids forever. He lived forever, which is interesting. And then we get, which I learned was chorus. Um, I think that the bass maybe crept in for the odd note, which I missed during that first Cyrus Jones bit, but I can hear it clearly in the chorus, working in tandem with the electric guitar to create this very pensive tone. And he sings Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Um, yeah, interesting. I guess it's someone who's contemplating their mortality. And the roll call of this and the next ones of lives, seemingly random unless you tell me otherwise, with this title Gravedigger, makes me think of him wandering through a graveyard, reading legends on the headstones. And then I'm taken to a very different song. And I don't think you would expect me to reference this band when talking about Dave Matthews, and that is the Smiths.
Mm.
So they did a song called Cemetery Gates. And in there's a line that says, so about like, him and Marcy and his mate, this girl turns up. So we go inside and we gravely read the stones. All those people, all those lives, where are they now? And then they talk about other stuff. It's a really light, sprightly, jangly song. Thank you, Mr. Marr. Where Morrissey compares poetry with a friend and shows off his erudition. But it's full of self-parody as he lectures about plagiarism while slipping in lines from other people himself into his own song with Shakespeare and blah, blah, blah. Ironically, as well, he misspells the word cemetery in the title. He misses off the last E. But anyway, it just reminded me that I digress. This is a very different feel, but there's not many songs about people skipping through graveyards and reading stones. Yeah, so I just didn't expect to be thinking of the Smiths when I listened to Mr. Matthews, but there you go. Happy accident. Anyway, back to the song. We get a couple of cymbal splashes, and then the music becomes fuller for the next verse. Muriel, didn't catch her last name, and basically she lost, and I think it was like right at the start of the century to 1950s, but she lost both her sons in World War II. And it goes on about her burying her babies, and no one should bury their babies. Um, at this point, the electric guitar is now noodling in the left channel, and then as we get the second chorus, it's joined by another noodler. Um, Obviously, that's rice noodles. This is egg noodles,
Yes.
and so we got double chow mein in both speakers, both channels, which is cool. And it sounds great. And again, it's getting fuller all the time. You know, if you did a sort of graph of this song in terms of it would be, and that's how the music, the sonic sort of level goes. We get this bridge where he's mixing in the sort of the old nursery rhyme Ring of Roses, with a bit of Ashes to Ashes as well. And this all adds to the sense of mortality. We all fall down, etc. And there's this thing about it being supposedly a nursery rhyme referring to the Black Death. And then somebody else says, well, there's no evidence for that. Fuck off. I reckon it must be because there's not much else it makes sense to, but
Yeah.
one of these things that's debunked by people who haven't got any evidence to what it does refer to.
Or a time machine to figure it out. So.
An absence of data is not proof. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we get another chorus and the guitars rise even further. So it's kind of getting a bit hectic at this point, and I'm struggling to because Mr. Matthews is getting quite emotive and wrapped up at this point, which is fair enough. First listen and all. But something about little Mikey riding his bike, and then a mention of Mr. Vertigo, and then a trapeze act, and it ends in 92, sorry. That's as much as I got from that, but it sounded great. And it really is sort of climaxing. We got another fulsome chorus, and this time we're getting the additions of strings, and he also does the old word tumbling, which kind of made me think a bit of acrobats, because he sings I can feel the rain, I can feel the rain, I can feel the rain, sort of tumbling. It's like a tumbling act, which again is a nice sort of change of rhythm. And the strings and the guitars all swirl, and we're getting up to this apex, and then it drops down on the word shallow, and we get this pensive bass and guitar to a shuffling. I still think it's a military beat that kind of sees us out. So I am firstly, Mr. Matthews' vocal performance is great. He has got a very good voice, as we all know, and he adds this sort of oomph to it where it's needed, and he's got the chops to be able to do that as well. So it's a great vocal performance. Really lovely touches of the guitar. I love the way they sort of changed the channels and brought it in, and just it's almost like they, Ten of clubs, Jack of clubs, Queen of clubs, King of clubs, Ace of clubs is like that, going on top of each other. The lyrics are really interesting. These little snippets of lives, we talked about this before, having to write sort of narratives. But again, with the Hemingway thing about writing the smallest story or this shortest narrative and getting as much across as possible in 2 or 3 lines is a real skill. It's great. And I mean, there are obit writers who used to do that thing for newspapers. So, but his is a more emotional rather than fact-based. She lived and died and worked here and married him and did that. It's more sort of emotional, which again is really interesting. I wonder if these characters are based on anyone. I can't believe they're real people that he's seen in a graveyard, although I guess they can't sue him because they're in a graveyard. But I think he's decided on them, and I wonder how he's decided and how he's decided that this one has this factor, and whether because none of them mention just a sort of a little snippet of their life. It isn't about how they died or anything, even though it's Gravedigger. But I'm wondering if it's supposed to reflect a certain aspect, or whether he just, created these very, very short paragraph stories and thought, that, well, I'll add that there and add that there.
Yeah.
I can't sense the purpose to it. Not that there needs to be one. I think that perhaps him saying about the shallow grave and I can feel the rain is still wanting feel some sort of connection after passing on. However, there is a reason why bodies are buried deep. Yes, otherwise you become a smorgasbord for local wildlife. So not a great idea. That's my recommendation to Mr. Matthews, but it's his funeral, as they say. So overall, I really enjoyed this song. I would say it's a different kettle of fish because the 3 is it 3 you've given me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3. 2 of them were definitely live performances, and one was the
Don't drink the water.
Yeah, the smallpox blankets, I was going to say. Which we got some heat about, didn't we? But anyway, in the comments, but yeah, so I shouldn't really mention that. But the other 2 in particular, same mind, because they're live performances and they jam a bit and show off and all that sort of stuff, their musicality. But I think as a song, I think I preferred this more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It just because I liked the narrative side of it. Just
I can
these little facets, It's almost like you see well, the Victorians is called silhouettes, usually of an enamel of somebody. You sort of like almost get the idea of the history of the person from that.
Yeah, like those
Um,
cameos or whatever they're
that's
called, where
it.
it's
Cameo
like,
is the word I'm thinking of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the silhouettes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually an interesting correlation you're making there from like a visual medium to like this, and where it's just like a snippet. You get an outline of what the person
Yeah.
was, what their life entailed. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Um, yeah, I would say they're kind of two different animals, comparing the
Yeah.
stuff to this, but it's on it for me, it's easily on an equal playing field. Like I really enjoy the song. I do like the creativity of creating these verses, as you said so eloquently about how, hey, they're just little sneak peeks or vignettes of these people's
Yeah.
lives. What's interesting is that they all work together to basically um, encapsulate a century of time passing. And when the idea is time passing, what better way to illustrate it than over like a span of 100 years? That even a block of 100 years, the crux of how things work doesn't change. It's you get a time on this earth, and everything's got an expiration date from that moment forward. And how we get there might be different, but it's the eternal truth or what have you. And I just thought it was a clever way to kind of illustrate that. And like you said, he's reflecting on mortality. I think Matthews was probably at a midlife point when he wrote this and was starting to think about that a bit more. And here's a really clever way to be able to write about it, I thought. So thanks for giving a listen. I'll get into the song and the album. We don't really need to get into Dave too much. We've covered him. South African born from Virginia, formed Dave Matthews Band, all that stuff. So, yeah, this track is featured on the album Some Devil, which happened to be the only studio album by the musician Dave Matthews as a solo act. So he only did this once, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. It was released September 23rd, 2003 on RCA Records. And for what it's worth, that was only a day before the famous Dave Matthews Band concert in Central Park that drew over 90,000 people that we've, seen
Yeah.
content. So, the album has been certified platinum by the RIAA, and it features several guest musicians, including longtime Dave Matthews Band collaborator, guitarist Tim Reynolds. So he was doing a lot of the lead guitar, but so was also Fish frontman, guitarist Trey Anastasio. So I don't know if you've ever listened to Fish or heard of him, but he's an amazing, accomplished guitarist. He featured on it as well.
See them live.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. You saw them with God, who was it? It wasn't
Violent Femmes.
Violent. Yeah, I was going to say the Violent Femmes. Damn, which is such a weird pairing in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They were opening for the Femmes. Femmes are headlining.
yeah. I would imagine, especially like given when it took place. I would imagine. You know what I mean? Because to see if you saw Fish and Violent Femmes now would be such a weird collab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Two very different worlds.
That was when. Sorry, I have to mention every time I say it that was when Fish played on trampolines with the vacuum cleaners going round and round.
Yeah, yes.
It was a spectacle,
to say the least. Other artists that also featured on the album were Brady Blade on drums and percussions, Tony Hall on bass guitar, Steve Harris on keyboards, harmonium, programming, and also percussions, Alex Villay on organ, the Dirty Dozen Brass Band on horns, a little surprise there, Roger Lewis on baritone saxophone, Kevin Harris on tenor saxophone, Ephraim Towns on flugelhorn, Sammy Williams on trombone, and Audrey Riley for string arrangements, horn arrangements, and, you guessed it, orchestral arrangements. Some Devil was recorded at Studio Litho in Seattle, Washington, and produced by the aforementioned Stephen Harris, who had previously worked with Dave Matthews Band on their 2002 album, Busted Stuff, which, like, as you know, the timeline, that album preceded this by a year, so he just stuck with him for this solo album. Many fans, while at first skeptical of Matthews' desire to release a solo album, quickly praised his efforts. The album is noted for its moodier tone and the fresh direction shown in Matthews' songwriting. Of the album, Matthews himself said, "I hadn't really been thinking about doing any solo album until I had a handful of songs that didn't really fit with the band. So I started with those, and it just kind of grew into a full record. I kind of thought it'd be fun to put it out. So I guess he had the stuff that he thought he couldn't make sound like a Dave Matthews Band song, so he just kind of like stashed it away until he had close to enough to do his own album. Since 2003, Matthews has performed some Devil material in concert with a group coined Dave Matthews and Friends, which is consisted mainly of musicians that appear on the album. He has also played some album material solo with longtime acoustic duo partner Tim Reynolds. During the 2008 summer tour, Dave Matthews Band played Gravedigger and So Damn Lucky regularly, while Stay or Leave following suit during the 2009 summer tour. So even though he had said that he didn't really see these as Dave Matthews Band songs, they have played a few of them here and there. The album single Gravedigger won a Grammy Award for the Best Male Rock Vocal Performance at the 46th Grammy Awards held in February of 2004. An interesting factoid about this song, Willie Nelson did his own version of it, and it appeared on the 2008 album Moment of Forever. So, that's...
I can see Willie Nelson doing this,
But
actually.
isn't that also like wildly complimentary to have like one of the bearers be like, also acoustic guitar driven musician solo artist be like, yeah, I want to do that. That's pretty awesome, I think. So, and you're right.
I mean, the only thing better than that would be Johnny Cash, but obviously he's not around any longer.
But an excellent observation by you to this it would easily translate to a Willie Nelson, jam. You could totally hear that. So
yeah.
Cool stuff. Writing for Relix, Rob Slater revisited the album in an article celebrating Matthews' 50th birthday, and in it had this to say: Some Devil continues to reinvent and reveal itself as one of the most interesting records from Matthews. Over the years, songs like Gravedigger, So Damn Lucky, Stay or Leave, and Save Me have all entered the DMB rotation since Tim Reynolds joined the band, but those pale in comparison to what was captured during those dark days of 2002. In an article on the album for The Tinnitus, Daryl Sturden wrote the following: Matthews ditches the neo-hippie looseness of his day job for the more intimate and structured confines of the singer-songwriter world. Most of these 14 tunes are low-key brooding numbers anchored by Matthews' high-pitched melancholy and jangly strum, augmented by everything from tasty horn lines to swelling symphonies. Naturally, Dave retains his flowing delivery and lyricism, though his streamlined arrangements are tight enough to keep you from nodding off in the solos. And if he veers a little too close to Sting or John Mayer for liking now and then, Some Devil's directness and power suggest Matthews could still do okay if this whole band thing doesn't pan out. So, well, that was an interesting synopsis and write-up on it. Okay, lyrics for this tune. Cyrus Jones, 1810 to 1913. He made his great-grandchildren believe you could live to 103. 103 is forever when you're just a little kid. So Cyrus Jones lived forever. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Muriel Stonewall, 1903 to 1954. She lost both of her babies in the Second Great War. You should never have to watch as your only children are lowered in the ground. I mean, never have to bury your own babies. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, ashes to ashes, we all fall down. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Little Mikey Carson, 67 to 75. He rode his bike like the devil until the day he died. When he grows up, he wants to be Mr. Vertigo on the flying trapeze, 1940 to 1992. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? I can feel the rain. I can feel the rain. Gravedigger. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger, Gravedigger. And Matthews said this about the song. It's kind of these different stories that are brought together by walking through a graveyard with their names and the dates of their births and their deaths and the stories that came out of their lives. It's sort of just telling those stories and some others you wander as you wander through a graveyard, and what you might think if you could walk into the graves and find out what people went through to get there. So not very far off from what you kind of described as your, suppositions about how a song like this might come to be. Quite literally, walking through a graveyard, making some observations, giving it some thought, and taking a little bit of artistic license to create these kind of short narratives for each individual, which collectively work together to again illustrate the greater part that time is fleeting and we're only here for but so long. So,
Couple of things. Yeah, there was a writer who used to always use graveyard names. It's a famous writer, and I'm trying to remember which one it was. Because again, they couldn't sue him. he picked the name, and I've done it as well when I was, teenager, graveyard, and you start reading and you, fuck, this person only lived like, 18
yeah,
years, and it's
yeah,
not more than two world wars. So what happened? It's interesting. Second thing is he mashed together the Ring of Roses and Ashes to Ashes. Are you familiar with the Ring of Roses poem?
yeah,
Nursery rhyme.
yeah,
Yeah, because it goes a tissue, we all fall down,
yeah.
which relates to the plague apparently. But it's interesting he didn't sing a tissue, which it would have sounded lame with this song. So it was very wise to swap the lines, So
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, that's something that Dave Matthews has done in other performances where he'll incorporate these old nursery rhyme lyrics into like
Yeah.
an elongated bridge or a jam that he like injects into a song or something like that. I don't know what his attraction is to that, but it's not the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last that he has done that. So, yeah, interesting guy, great voice, and a really, really interesting story. I love this song. So thank you so much for giving it a listen, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Excellent, excellent. Well, folks out there in the listening audience, let us know what you thought of Gravedigger by Dave Matthews. Reminded you of anything, if there's other tracks by him or the band that we need to check out, or just any other acts in general that happen to be on your mind when you're watching this video, pop them down in the comments field below. Really, whatever you want. It's your canvas, paint on it, but we love hearing from you guys. We love interacting with you guys. Also, while we have your attention, please like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. We really do appreciate it. Also, just a heads up, in the coming weeks, we are going to be sort of supplanting our usual programming with some holiday-centric material to kind of fill in the gaps and give us a little time off to go do our thing. So we're going to do our typical week of Christmas songs. Then we're going to do our week or our year in review stuff where I pick 3 songs that really resonated with me from John. John will do the same with me. We'll do an episode devoted to the viewer requests that we've got over the past year and kind of give you our rankings and our feelings about some of the great stuff that came in over the last calendar year. And I think that's pretty much it, right, John? I think I've covered everything.
Yeah, and when a series is really struggling is when they do a clips episode. So that's what we're going to do. For a couple of days, very short, but it's going to be kind of bloopers and kind of the bullshit that we talk about, which we edit out.
So there you go. A little glimpse behind the curtain. So yeah, thanks, John. I appreciate it. So guys, like, share, subscribe if you're so inclined. Keep an eye out for that stuff. We will be back to doing our normal thing once 25 rolls around. So thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. See you later, guys.